You know the vibes. Welcome to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast, brought to you by NBA 2K23. Mo Musi and BJ Armstrong here once again, bringing you everything you need to know from around the world of the NBA. BJ, you ready for this one today?
Come on, Mo. I stay ready. It's the holidays.
We have some news.
I stay ready so I don't have to get ready. Oh, you got news. Oh, news break.
We have some news from a friend of the show, Mr. Chris Haynes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Chris Haynes says Trae Young could be the next NBA superstar to request a trade.
Oh, wow.
If the
Did
team...
we just get news out of Atlanta? We just got news out of Atlanta, right?
Yeah, we did with their front office. We talked about it on yesterday's show.
Okay.
If the team doesn't make inroads come playoff time, Trae Young reportedly will want out.
Okay.
Your immediate reaction to this news, please, sir.
You know, we've had this conversation now, seems like for years. Everyone's looking for a disgruntled superstar.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone wants to get cap space to absorb that disgruntled superstar because their place is different than the other place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get that disgruntled superstar, you got to give up multiple players because very rarely do you give one player that's a max player for another player as a max player. So you end up giving, two players or
like a package of picks and role players, but this is different though, because usually a disgruntled superstar, say for example a Bradley Beal wanted out of Washington, the Wizards would look to rebuild, whereas this Hawks team is not set up to rebuild. They just traded for DeJounte. They got a bunch of other pieces. They've just paid DeAndre Hunter. They paid John Collins. They are looking to contend rather than rebuild. So this may not be like other disgruntled superstars where they want to bottom out and get picks and go through the draft to retool, as we like to say. They might be looking for another disgruntled superstar to do a swap.
Like who, for instance?
Well, that's where things get tricky, and that's what we're going to have to talk about on this episode. But we did just talk about DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine reportedly unhappy in Chicago. Although I don't see how adding Trae Young helps Chicago's defense in
DeMar DeRozan is unhappy? I didn't see that one. Did he? He said he's
in the same report from Chris Haynes, he said that the Bulls are dealing with some dysfunction as it pertains to team chemistry and accountability while stationed 11th in the East. If matters don't improve, executives believe lead star guard DeMar DeRozan will request to be moved in the offseason.
Okay. But DeMar didn't say it.
Well, no one ever says it. This is the NBA. This is sources.
Well, DeMar. Yeah, I missed DeMar saying something. Well, I did. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
So
I mean, this stuff doesn't bother me. I'm so over it. Okay. All right. So Trae Young report is going to want to be moved. Okay, great. What are you going to put together for him? And all right, in the end, here's a player now, and you have to ask the question: is that player alone going to move your needle? And then I'll just watch. Now, if someone asks me, then I'll give my opinion. But if you think that player alone is going to move your needle, because those are some good players down there in Atlanta.
Well, this is what I'm asking you, BJ. If you were the Atlanta Hawks, and let's say hypothetically Trae Young did say that he wanted to be moved, what would you be looking for in return? Would it be another superstar? Would it be another load of draft picks and pieces or role players or young players? What would be your ideal return if you were in charge over there in Atlanta?
Well, the first thing, if I were, the first thing what I would do is, one, I would huddle up with my owner, the ownership there, I would huddle up with them. I'd huddle up with my coaches, the executives, and the players. And I want to get a feel for what's the expectations with this group. Now, let's assume that the expectations is we expecting to get to the second round. I think that group can do it.
As it stands currently.
As it stands currently. If you told me should they be able to win the first round matchup, I could see that.
You see them beating one of Milwaukee, Boston, Cleveland, and then Philly or Brooklyn, maybe. You see them winning one of those first round matchups.
No, I would pick the other team, but I could see them beating Brooklyn.
Yeah,
I could see them.
I don't see them beating the other three though.
I could see them beating. I could see them beating Philly. They've done it before. They've done it before. I could see them beating Philly. Now, highly unlikely do they beat the Celtics. Highly unlikely do they beat the Milwaukee Bucks. However,
or the Cavs.
I would pick the Cavs ahead of them, but I could see them. They are talented enough. They have excellent guard play. This is a league now where if you have excellent guard play, you have a chance. Check. They have shot blockers. They have athletes. They have wing defenders. They have spacing. They have shooting on the floor. They can play the game at a nice pace. This isn't a team that's just, if they come in as the 6th or 7th or 8th seed, that's not a freebie. This is a really good team that has excellent guard play. They have, I think, players who have played in high pressure situations, and they have veteran players. So I could see this team saying we can get to the second round. Now, if you're telling me are you saying, are we a championship caliber team? I would say probably not. Do I think this team is built as it currently is constructed to get to the conference finals? I would say probably not. However, I do think this team has the potential with the right matchups to advance. Things happen. An injury takes place with one of those teams. Maybe someone has a bad series. This team is a very capable team. They can score. They have rim protection, and they have excellent, wing guys that can be more than capable of playing against any of those other teams.
That is true in theory, but they currently sit ninth in the conference at a 500 record.
Okay, and what's the games between them and, let's say, the 4 seed? How many games?
Let me have a look. The games between them and the 4 seed, they're 4 games behind.
Okay, so that's all right. That's 1 week. That's a week's work.
If the 4 seed loses every game and they win every game, and the other teams in between lose too. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's very capable. You go on a 6 or 7 game win streak. You can go on a 2-3 game win streak. I mean, that's a week's work. You're right back in the mix. So, now, what's the expectations of this group? What's realistic? And you hear me say this all the time, Mo. How are you going to have consistent play in an 82-game schedule without defense?
Well, we say that, but it's also the offense that's the problem. Trae Young right now is the worst 3-point shooter in the league by the percentage. He's shooting 28.8% from downtown amongst the 50 most active 3-point shooters. He is the second coldest shooter when it comes to points per shot by the 50 players with the most field goals attempted, with 0.96 points per shot. That's worse than PJ Washington of the Charlotte Hornets. So it's not exactly as if the offense is outweighing the lack of defense. This is the thing with Trae Young. The defense is going to be bad. He's a small guard that teams like to pick on, but the offense has to outweigh the defense. You're essentially trading 3s for 2s. But since they've got
if anyone has that way of thinking, you're going to be bad. Why? It's because this league, okay, I don't know about college basketball, FIBA basketball. In this league, you have to play transition basketball, right? Mm-hmm. The game has to go. If I get a stop, now I can get out and run and play advantage basketball, 4 against 3, 3 against 2. And because their defense is bad, it makes total sense to me of why his offensive output is bad. Because we know it's way more difficult to score and shoot at a higher percentage rate when the other team contests those shots. Mm-hmm. So if they're playing defense, that means the other team's transition defense is going to be better. That means he's playing 5 versus 5. So that makes total sense to me of why his shooting percentage is so low, because he is a volume shooter. And many of those shots are shots that the shot clock is running down because he has the ball primarily, and during the shot clock. Yeah, so that makes total sense to me. Like, I'm not shocked by that. That's not like shocking news. What is shocking to me is they are in 11th place.
So just staying on the offense for a sec. With that, you put that down to the defense being bad, not that DeJounte Murray's come in and he's made no effort to find a role as an off-ball player when DeJounte is the one facilitating, looking disengaged and kind of just standing around.
No, I don't. When you have DeJounte Murray, okay, we have these. This is my problem when I having conversations like this. Okay, so we look at the numbers. So the numbers will justify our position. However, we say these things, but then we don't carry them through. For instance, we say this is a positionless game. So why should Trae Young be the only guy that has the ball in a game now where it's truly positionless?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like, there are no more traditional point guards. I mean, okay, maybe CP3. Who else would you put in that category right now?
Of what, a traditional point guard?
Yeah.
Now, who else? None of the young players I'd say is a traditional point guard.
There's nothing traditional about Trae Young the way he plays. Mm-hmm. So why am I like saying, okay, he shouldn't have the ball, or he should have the ball more? What? No. Now you got 5 guys who literally should be able to bring the ball up the court and play, right? You got Jokic doing it. I watched Joel Embiid last night. He's shooting threes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect Clint Capella to do it, but I get your point.
Everyone plays small ball at some point during the game.
But how does that pertain to Trae Young not wanting to play when he's not got the ball in his hands?
When I watch Atlanta, here is the problem when I watch Atlanta. I got one question. All of the other stuff, like Nate McMillan is, I think, a terrific coach. Okay?
Yes, I agree.
He's terrific. Okay, I think Nate McMillan is terrific. Okay, I know Coach McMillan. I played against Coach McMillan, and I'm not saying we are the best of friends. However, I know him. Under no circumstances would Coach McMillan have his smallest player guarding small forwards and the other team's weakest perimeter player. Under no circumstances would he do that, unless there is a problem with that player.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this before. I'll say it again. I don't have a problem with Trae Young on the offensive end, the way he plays. He has to play with that level of freedom. I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is with that freedom that he plays with on the offensive end comes a responsibility and accountability that he must accept. He has to give a better defensive effort if this team is going to reach its potential. I'm not saying he has to become an all-NBA Marcus Smart defensive player.
He couldn't.
They're clearly hiding him on the defensive end of the ball for whatever the reason may be. I'm not with him every day.
The reason is he's not a good defender, and he doesn't even try.
Okay, but let me tell you something. It's very hard to play when your players are out of position, and it starts on the defensive end. So now you have your point guard playing on the baseline because that's where the wing players play. You have your 2 guard or your small forward, however you want to do it by today's, calculations. Now they're guarding the other team's point guard in there. So everyone's the floor balance, believe it or not, Mo, is off because everyone is kind of like in what they call a cross match.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you have this off balance, then we say, well, we look at the percentages. Well, of course they're going to be off. Why? Because everyone is off. So I would suspect, as I'm watching the Atlanta Hawks play, what's the first thing that you see teams doing against Trae Young? They post him up.
Yep.
Okay, so they post him up. So now they have to double team. Well, when you double team, now everyone's in a scramble. When you compromise your defense, it compromises everything else. So I'm not upset or like, oh, what's going on? At some point here, everyone's going to have to step up and accept the responsibility, because scoring is not a problem with this team. They have excellent athletes, terrific players. And at some point here, everyone's going to have to accept that matchup. When they play when the Atlanta Hawks play the Brooklyn Nets, who's guarding Kyrie Irving?
DeJounte Murray.
Who's guarding John Morant?
DeJounte Murray.
Who's guarding Steph Curry?
You know the answer.
Who's guarding Damian Lillard?
It ain't going to be Trae Young.
Okay, so when you have all of these cross matches going on, that compromises your defense. Now, for whatever the reason, they've determined that that's given them the best opportunity to win. Okay, I respect that. I don't know. I'm just watching. However, what I do know is when a team compromises their defense, whether it's for a quarter, for a game, or a matchup, that puts you at a disadvantage. Every time you play these great players and you compromise and don't accept the matchup, how are you going to win? Who is he going to guard when they play against Drew Holiday? Who is he going to guard when they play against Marcus Smart?
Mm-hmm.
Because let me tell you something. If they play the Boston Celtics, where are you going to run in that matchup? You can't put him on Tatum. You can't put him on Brown. Marcus Smart will take him right to the post. You can't put him on Al Horford. You can't put him on the Time Lord. So where are you going to run? There's no place to run here. Mm-hmm. So at some point here, we all have to accept our responsibility and say, okay, they're going to pick on me. However, I got to show up. Now, to me, it's a simple solution to me. So all of this reports, listen, you can't run in this league. No one can. You have to show up and play. So I don't know what the problem is. I'm not there. I'm just answering your question. But when I watch the team, I always wonder like, oh, wow, that puts them at a significant disadvantage every time I watch them play.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to watch them play tomorrow night versus the Detroit Pistons. Okay? Because I just like to see how teams match up against other teams. Why? Because the team that doesn't have to compromise, more times than not, they can play, and they can play at a higher, they can play at a higher level, right? Giannis, you don't go into the game going, we're going to hide Giannis. Giannis is looking for the matchup. Because every night he has an advantage versus however, he demands 2 or more people to guard him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact. You can't guard him one-on-one. That's a fact. You have to wall up against him. You need 3-4 people to stop this man every single night. Jason Tatum is another player now that you have to guard with 2 or more people. That's why you have great players in this league. So I don't know that answer. I think Coach McMillan understands that. I mean, he played in this league for a long time. He understands that. So to me, it's a matter of, okay, when are we, and I say when are we as players going to accept what's necessary to win this league? You can't win in this league no other way. So it's not even a debate here. It's not even like, well, how are we going to do it? Either you're going to do it or you're not. And right now, Atlanta is not doing it.
Well, this lack of defense makes it tricky for teams to trade him, even if he does demand a trade. Most teams in the NBA, every team is
not looking for that.
Yeah, most teams in the NBA already have good point guards. This is really a point guard era that we're in. So when you think about how many teams would want to trade their current point guard for a Trae Young, and then you're trading for a guy who offers not much on defense, and on offense, the whole thing has to run through him. So it's not like he's a superstar in the way of a Kawhi Leonard. where you could drop him onto a Toronto Raptors team that's just one piece away and he can lead you to a championship. If you add Trae Young to your team, you have to rebuild your whole team.
Well, you're talking about Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is perhaps when he's healthy, I'm going to say that, when he's healthy, he's without question one of the elite defenders in this league.
Exactly.
Okay. You're talking about a totally different player. When he's healthy, he's one of the elite defensive players. That's a different situation. Trae Young is a young player. He's an exciting, explosive offensive player. Okay. He has one of the characteristics you love in this league. He can play screen roll. He can shoot the ball with distance. Okay. And he can break down the defense. He can break down your defense. Plays with pace, plays with space. He does all of those things. However, the one thing that seems teams, and that's why these coaches are so good at the level. That's why I respect these coaches. If they find a weakness in your game, they're going to exploit it. If they find a weakness, any weakness you have, it will be found in the NBA playoffs, and these teams will exploit it. That's a fact. Okay, so when you watch the Atlanta Hawks play, why are all the teams going at one place?
You're in a place to go.
So Trae Young is going to have to. There's only one thing to do. I'm not saying you got to be an all-defensive player, but you have to meet that challenge. Every team, every player, every coach, there's a challenge in front of you every single night. You got to meet it. And listen, we all can't be great defenders. We all can't be great offensive players. But what you have to do is you have to bring effort. You hear me say this all the time, Mo. We have to bring the effort and the energy necessary to meet whatever challenge is going on out there in that court. And right now, the Atlanta Hawks, that's a good team. Okay? And right now, Mo, the reason we're having this conversation is because of one thing. They are underperforming clearly in the eyes of people within that organization.
Yeah.
Well, because if they weren't, you would say 11th seed, that's pretty good. You would say, okay, 11th seed or right, I don't know the record, but they've got to be somewhere around 500, 4 or 5 games or so. That's not bad. Well, it's not bad.
A lot of people are floating the idea of Trae Young being on the Raptors because they feel like they've got, nice wing defenders that can compensate for him. But I want to float an idea to you. How would you like the hypothetical fit of Trae Young on the Orlando Magic? Because it would be him and essentially 4 almost 7-foot players.
Well, who are you going to give up?
Well, this would depend on what Atlanta's looking for in return, whether they want to take on a whole bunch of picks that Orlando has and young pieces, or if they're looking for another star in return.
Well, you got to give up something. Now, you got to give up. You're giving up an all-star player. Okay. All right. You're giving up an all-star player. Isn't it at least, isn't it in their interest to get back a starter or two?
Well, there could be a 3-way deal in which Trae goes to Orlando.
Okay, well,
Orlando sends young players and picks to Chicago, and Chicago sends Zach LaVine to the Atlanta Hawks.
Okay, is that what? Why would Zach LaVine? Why would Atlanta want Zach LaVine back?
You said they want to get a star level player. Zach LaVine has been an all-star in this league.
I'm just saying but again, we just sat there and spent the last 10 minutes on defense. I just watched the Bulls play the other night, and they gave up 150 points.
Well, he's not a good defender, but he's a better defender than Trae Young.
Okay.
Do you not think? Do you agree?
If I'm the Atlanta Hawks, this is what I do. Make it real simple. If that report is true, then you have a 2-way player at the point guard position right now. All-star rating. Dejounte Murray. That's what I would do first. He's arguably just as good or better on the defensive side than he is on the offensive side. That'd be the first thing. You have Clint Capella, who could very well be a top, let's say, 30 defensive player in the league at his position. Okay, he could be an all-defensive player. right? He could be one of the top 15 guys. I think he's in the top 20. Yeah, Clint Capella. Okay. The kid, what is it, Hunter?
Mm-hmm.
I think this kid could be another top 30 defensive player in this league.
He has the tools there. Yeah.
Is it okay? So now I got 3 guys that I feel real good about on the defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
If I were the Atlanta Hawks, I would add 2 things. I would add length. Okay. Length. I would look to add guys like Siakam, like what's the kid?
Scotty Barnes.
Scotty Barnes. I would look to add players like that.
Scotty Barnes has been horrible defensively lately.
Okay, that's fine. Again, I would look to add length and toughness to that side of the ball. That's what I would do. Herb Jones. I'm looking for players like that. I'm looking for Jeremy Grant. I'm looking for those type of players because with Murray at my position, I have a chance now to be big. That could be a big team now. Right now, they're currently small in the backcourt. Okay. Just like last year and the year before that, I was always an advocate. Put Donovan Mitchell at the lead guard position. Now your team can be big. But when you play him and Mike Conley together, now your backcourt is small. Mm-hmm. Murray allows you to have a big team. Why is that critical? Because you can truly now switch 1 through 5, which in theory, I'm not saying you can, in theory, that would take away the other team's ability to play screen roll versus me. Because truly, you should be able to switch 1 through 4, 1 through 5 with Clint Capella. That's why the Golden State Warriors, that's why the Boston Celtics, that's why they're so dominant in today's game, because you can't just play screen roll against them. That's what I would do. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter about scoring. If I can stop you, then I always have a chance to win. Now, so that's what I would be looking back for in return. I think Trae Young is a really, really good basketball player. However, if those reports are true and you were asking me, I'm just going to the other side of the ball trying to address that issue. Mm-hmm. Because scoring, you're going to score in this league if you can stop somebody. The other kid Griffin looks like he's going to be a good player. He may be a starter in this league. You know, I like the kid Collins. Okay. So Collins and you add a Siakam or something to that mix. Now I got big athletes that will allow me to play a way that I would like to play, if that were me. But I don't know. I'm just saying, but when you have a small player like Trae Young, you can't switch, right?
Nope.
If you play the Denver Nuggets, you can just switch now everything. You can switch everything. When you play against, all these teams, you can just switch. However, with Trae Young, you can't do that. When I play against Milwaukee, I can just switch.
No, there's not many. Guys. There's not many guards in the league that can switch and be comfortable against Giannis or Jokic.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If you're saying what I do, Dejounte Murray to me, that's why Marcus Smart and the kid from Milwaukee,
Drew Holiday.
That's to me is why they're so special. Those guys can literally guard 1 through 4, 1 through 5. We're
talking about some of the best defenders in the NBA.
But that's why they're the best teams in the NBA. Mm-hmm. To me, it's real simple. It's not. This isn't like, who should you get? Okay, that's fine. It's the same formula. When your point guard like Marcus Smart and Drew Holiday have those abilities to guard anybody, I could put Drew Holiday and Marcus Smart on Kevin Durant and say, let's stay home. How many people can do that? And I can live with that. I can put them on Jimmy Butler. I can put them on LeBron James. I can put them on Damian Lillard. I could put them on Steph Curry. I could put them on Trae Young. I could put them on anybody. That to me is the luxury and what you're looking for if you're coaching in this league and you're going to win in this league. Mm-hmm. If I'm just depending on you to shoot 40% from three to win, well,
you ain't winning.
You're not going to win
nothing.
That's now, is it possible for you to shoot? Yeah, it's possible to shoot 40%, but just as possible as for you to make those shots, it's also possible for you to miss those shots. So, I mean, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. It seems real obvious to me what needs to happen. And because Trae Young, if you were asking me, I would hope that he gets it because that's a really good team over there. Like, when I look at their roster, that's a really good team.
Yeah.
That's a good Hunter, Collins, Clint Capella. That's a good front court.
Yeah.
You're playing next to an all-star guard that plays as an all-defensive player on and off the ball. It doesn't get any better than that. You get all the shots you want and all the screens you want and shoot all the balls you want on the offensive end. I would hope that those guys would work it out. Why? Because let me tell you something, Mo. It ain't always greener on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what, but again, I've been around a little bit. So it doesn't get any better than that, Mo. That's a good team over there, unless I'm missing something. That's a really
on paper, it's a good team, but
that's a good paper.
Yeah, they're fun to play with on 2K. So go get your copy of 2K if you need a last-minute Christmas gift for someone. But we want to hear from you. Let us know in the Discord. Where do you think Trae Young should be traded, or if the Hawks should try and work it out and keep him? Let us know your thoughts. The Discord's funny, BJ. I know you don't see the conversation in there, but Zubair, regular listener to the show, said Mo dropped a podcast on the Celtics and they haven't won a game in 10 days. Dropped a podcast about the Knicks and all the joy is sucked out of New York City. Giannis should be on red alert seeing this pattern. Maybe this podcast is just cursing teams who are on a hot streak. Who knows?
Curse of Mo?
No, maybe, but it's you as well. So we in this together, B. We're going to be back tomorrow. Bonus episode, Christmas Eve tomorrow. We're going to be previewing you all of the Christmas Day fixtures. We've got 5 NBA games, early tip-offs. So make sure you catch tomorrow's episode so you know on Sunday, on Christmas Day, which games you need to tune in for and what you need to be looking for. We'll see you in the next one. Make sure you tell a friend to listen to the show as well. Make sure that you give it a 5-star review and rating and all that good stuff. And most importantly, get buckets.